Of course, Tiger Woods was referring to LeBron James, and so eloquently and doing it so. I think there was a little part of him that was also maybe
referring to himself?
Referring to himself to the naysayers and the doubters out there who maybe think he's on the decline. Hey, look how long I've done this. Here's someone who's done it so well. There has to be a part of it. There was an underlying message there. But, Cece, let's talk about what Tiger was saying in regards to LeBron. Is he right that LeBron's longevity is the most impressive part of his accomplishment?
Tiger Woods, that's one of the best breakdowns of another, from a star, megastar, to another megastar that I've ever heard. Because it's so true. I told this when I met Nick, and I knew Nick's story as far as his support of LeBron. But I know I'm one of the biggest LeBron fans out there. I heard about LeBron when he was 14 years old. The people who was handling, the people who knew him. Man, we had this kid from Ohio that was going to be the next great one. And actually, at the time, my attraction to him was because he's also a wide receiver, Chris. So I've been following LeBron all this time. And then I meet Nick, and we partner up. And I've been on the record as saying Michael Jordan's the greatest player ever. And the only way LeBron's going to be able to approach Michael Jordan or potentially surpass him is longevity. That's the only thing, because at that time, given LeBron's final record and the way we judge basketball players has a lot to do with championships. You can go rebounds, points, right, but it has a lot to do with championships. I told Nick he needs to get on to the longevity, man. And what LeBron is doing is like no other athlete that we've seen. You could talk about maybe Wayne Gretzky in hockey and him continuing to dominate at a high level.
By the way, see, Tiger says Gretzky's name in the earlier part of that clip before we started playing it.
Because that's what it's about. And how do I know Tiger Woods loves basketball. I know he follows basketball. I've seen him at hundreds of NBA games. But I asked Tiger Woods' dad, in meeting with him at Augusta, spending time with him, if Tiger wasn't a golfer. I know you always had a dream of him being a golfer. If he was not a golfer, what would he have been doing? He said, well, first of all, he'd have been the starting point guard for UCLA. He would have been a basketball player. He's that kind of athlete. So Tiger's kind of had basketball in his background. So for me, I thought it was really refreshing to see him talk about LeBron. LeBron's only avenue to Michael J. and the GOAT is longevity and perfection over a long period of time.
How high's your prime? How long do you stay there? I know sometimes I get poked at for being so analytical, mathematical, that it is almost an equation. How good are you? What's the apex?
And for how long?
And how long do you stay there? And figure that out. So I'm going to give you, and for LeBron, the apex is best player in the league, right? So just for contemporary standards, how long has he been there? Over a decade. And that's something we've never seen. This will be his 13th consecutive top 5 MVP finish. Never seen it. This will be his 11th consecutive first team All-NBA spot on the most competitive spot in the league, forward spot. Never seen it before. And so that is, I don't know if it's the most impressive accomplishment. Oddly enough, I think LeBron's most impressive accomplishment is being the most hyped prep athlete of all time and exceeding that hype, dealing with
living up to
the expectations that were absurd, especially given very little family support. I don't want to say family support, but not a great infrastructure coming up. What he's done.
Very different than the way people think successful people grow up.
Exactly right. And so, like, it's one of the most impressive things. But I want to go back to when I said, what's your apex? How long do you stay there? Because there's a guy that I believe, if you have every NBA player that ever lived at their absolute peak of their powers, and you can say you can have any of them for one game you have to win, who do you want? I would not take LeBron. I would not take Jordan. I wouldn't take Kareem. I'd actually take Shaq. I think perfect Shaq for one game or one season is the best version of most dominant version of a player we've ever seen. But Shaq only stayed in that spot for 3 years.
And that's not how we measure greatness.
That's right. Well, that's part of that. So that's why Shaq's the 12th greatest player instead of the best. Take the flip side of that. A guy who was never, in my eyes, the best player in the league, but was at his apex for 15 years, Karl Malone. Right? So Karl Malone, he has the longevity, but his absolute apex was not quite high enough. There's two guys who have the apex and the longevity handled, LeBron and Kareem. Jordan didn't have the longevity. Now, you can argue his apex was higher than anybody's. I might not agree, but like LeBron and Kareem are the two guys that do exactly what Tiger's talking about. Immediately get to their prime. Kareem was the best player in year 1. LeBron was arguably the best player by year 2 or 3, and stay there for over a decade. It is, see, I know it is. It is not your 130 touchdowns. It's not when you set the catch record. What you take the most pride in, in my opinion, from hearing you talk about it, is you entered your prime in year 7, and you stayed there for 8 more years. It took you 7 years to get there. And you stayed there for longer than the time it took you to get there. Like, how long can you extend your prime? It's what made Jerry.
There's no doubt.
Prime was 15 years.
And no other receiver can approach that. And that's what separates it. That's why always the argument for the receiver, it's not who is the greatest receiver. It's who is the second, third, or fourth because of longevity. And that's what LeBron has in his favor. And he's got it rolling. Now, he's got to be able to keep it rolling because you can't match that 6-0 for Jordan, and you can't not talk about him taking a break from the game that he loved, all right? And that absent in there. That's in there, and it's in there for a reason.
It's a great conversation. It's a fun conversation because I'm sure you could do the same thing with football. I'm sure you could pick 5 or 6 guys who were either here but much higher or here and stay there for the course.
Brady.
Tom Brady.
I don't think Brady's best is the best quarterback we've ever seen, but it's in the argument, and he's been there for, you know, they went undefeated in 07. He just won the MVP in 2017. Like, Brady's got the longevity part of it as well.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.